I'm writing them down now.
Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. Daniela, Hogrebe.
Yeah, from Germany. Marc. Then we have Marcus Jobst.
As Hugo said, it's somewhere in the. It's also in the program.
No, but these are not probably.
Okay.
And we have Marc. Carlo.
And how do they go? What's the Cipolloni?
Cipolloni.
Okay, and this is the order they go?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Okay. I mean, we can decide now how we go.
It will be about the national experiences, right?
Yeah, how they use the result of the MIG in the national. How they use the outcomes in the national implementation. Yeah.
So backward looking.
Space?
No. How they national implementation examples using the outcomes of the MIG.
I think this is the mouse.
Can you put there the program? Because
Yeah.
this is all.
Okay. Sorry, how do I charge my... It's strange. Up. Try to manage. Okay. Just remove the...
Yes. Is your presentation on the phone?
Okay, now.
Very good.
I charge. Okay. You can. Also for this session, a presentation.
Yes. Can copy you here?
Yes. Oh, this I'm not sure. Where's my? Okay.
Very good.
Okay, I think it's time we can perhaps slowly start. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the presentation on the INSPIRE Maintenance and Implementation Framework, What's New, What's Next. My name is Robert Conrad, and I will be chairing this session. We have had a quite intense morning. I think the opening session as well as the first plenary session gave quite a dynamic picture of first the level of ambition that is linked to the INSPIRE as well as some implementation challenges. And we went from the most general policy framework of the digital single market to, let's say, in the first plenary session, some practical cases, some practical experiences, and also some very legitimate questions about how to proceed further. Let's just remind ourselves of a few facts here. First of all, the maintenance and implementation framework, what is it? Well, like the many other legal instruments at the European Union level, also the INSPIRE, given its very framework, very horizontal nature and a broad scope, has or is being supported by the common implementation strategy. That's the most general term for this type of support measures, which in case of INSPIRE has the form of the maintenance and implementation framework, which is basically based on the collaboration between the EU actors, which is the DG Environment of the European Commission, Joint Research Center of the European Commission, the European Environmental Agency, and of the member states, and it's being basically formalized as a form of the committee, so it's a part of a comitology procedure. And not to bother you with the further details, there is a ongoing rolling maintenance and implementation framework that has been set up already some time ago when the INSPIRE was put in the operation, and which is now going, and we are going to talk about the horizon 2016-2020. We are also at the point where there has been the refit of the INSPIRE, which has looked at performance of the directive vis-a-vis number of the criteria. And one of the most important lessons was about the fitness of the purpose of the directive. All this has been heavily debated and discussed both between the institutions as well as with the member states over the last more than a year or even 2 years. And the outcome of this discussion is actually being translated operationally in the new maintenance and implementation work program for the period 2016-2020. That work program is not being yet formally adopted. It will only be formally adopted once the member states will give their okay. But I think there has been quite a consensus at the technical level being built already. So with this short introduction, I would like to invite Michael Lutz from the Joint Research Center to give us a bit of a snapshot on the maintenance and implementation framework and the work program, what's new. Please, Michael.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Welcome to the session on the results from the maintenance and implementation work over the last 2 years or so. Let me find my presentation. There we go. Okay, so my name is Michael Lutz. I work at the European Commission Joint Research Center in INSPIRE, who is the overall technical coordinator of the INSPIRE implementation. And I'm chairing the technical subgroup of the MIG-T. I have the honor to try and talk to you in about 15 minutes about the work that more than 100 people, I think, did over the last 2 years or so. So that's going to be quite a challenge, and I'll do my best to not keep you too long. So why are we doing all this implementation framework? Why have we set this up? This is the implementation roadmap that many of you are probably quite familiar with. You see that we have many deadlines for the different INSPIRE annexes. And we are basically quite far already towards the end. So there's a lot of deadlines that have already passed, and we've heard in the plenary just before that there's still some gaps with the past deadlines, but we also have a number of deadlines coming up quite soon. So we clearly are here to support member states in the implementation. We also have a number of legal acts and more than 40 technical guidelines that obviously need to be maintained. So if things we discover that are wrong or that are maybe misleading or that could be better explained, we need to maintain these documents and publish new versions of them. We also have a number of central infrastructure components. You all know the INSPIRE GeoPortal, I'm sure, but we also have a central registry for storing all the code list values, vocabularies, and the glossary, and so on, that is managed at the central level in the JRC, and we also need to maintain these tools and components. And there's the validator, of course. There's a number of other tools as well that we'll talk about in more details in the tools session tomorrow. And last but not least, we also need to support technical evolution. We all know that technology doesn't stand still and is moving faster than ever. So we need to see how we can connect to other things that are going on in the domains of open data, in the domains of new standards, web technologies, and so on. And this is the last slide, actually, last but not least. We need to connect to other policies that are going on as well. in the environmental domain. We've heard about that also in the plenary before, but also beyond the digital single market, as Robert mentioned, Copernicus, we've heard that in the plenary as well. And we should be coordinating the response or the discussion between INSPIRE and these other policies and see where the synergies to be had. How are we going to do this, or how we are doing this since 2 years? We have the main pillars is the maintenance and implementation group, the MIG, that is basically working at the policy level. And we have a permanent subgroup that I mentioned is the MIG-T, that are the two main pillars. In addition to those groups that have representatives from the member states, we have a number of ad hoc subgroups that are working on specific tasks, and the members are coming from the stakeholder community, from yourselves, taken from what we call the pool of experts, and these are basically experts, the 100+ experts that I was mentioning earlier. The basis for the work that we're doing is the agreed multi-annual work program, and as Robert mentioned, we've basically had the first 2 years of a work program that we've been more or less that we are about to complete in these months, and we're setting up a new work program for the coming years that Joeri is going to present at the end of the session. This is a quick overview of the actions that we have been working on over the past 2 years or so. You can see that the ones in dark green are already completed, and the ones in light green have an estimated finish date towards the end of the year. And there's there's 2 actions, number 5 and number 14, that we will be carrying over into the new work program that Joeri will be presenting later. I'm going to very, very quickly present the outcome of these 8 or so activities that we've done. This is going to be more of a teaser presentation. So I'm going to just highlight what the issue is and what we've done, where we are, and I'm going to point, where possible, to a number of presentations that are ongoing during the conference, or that have actually already happened yesterday. So that you can get some more in-depth information about these topics. We also have some presentations from some members of the MIG later on to actually present how some of the results of the group have been taken on in member states and how they're actually helping implementation there. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is validation and conformity testing, why we're doing this. We have a clear need in the implementation phase for tools for validation, for metadata, for services, and for data, for a number of user groups, let's say, for implementers to understand how well they're doing with their implementation, where there's still gaps, where they still need to improve, for national coordinators so that they know for the monitoring how well the different organizations in their countries are doing, for the European Commission and EEA in order to monitor the implementation across Europe and to see where there's gaps and where maybe some countries are behind and others are more ahead. But also for solution providers, technology providers that are working with the implementers to check whether their software solutions, their web map services, their web feature services, and so on, are actually fulfilling the INSPIRE requirements. So it's quite an important central infrastructure component, and we've had such a component already available at the JRC for a number of years, but also in member states and projects, such validation tools have been developed, and we found that on one hand there's a duplication of effort, on the other hand also there are potentially inconsistent results. So basically it was clear that we would need to have a commonly agreed rules across Europe that everybody can use and that everybody and tools that everybody can use in order to come to the same results. We started with a subgroup to work on that issue, and it started, let's say, rather slowly with a number of definitions of abstract test suites, so the abstract definitions of tests. And in December 2015, we decided that we needed to support that activity with additional funding to support the development of the tool, because that couldn't be done by the group alone. So that activity has been taking place under the ARENA ISA action since December 2015, and they've basically completed the first development of the abstract test suites for metadata and network services in June this year. And we're happy to basically present at the conference the first release of the INSPIRE testing framework and the first executable test suites. So we have a first sneak preview of this common validator tool that should be available by summer next year. That's all I want to say about validation. There will be two presentations. Well, there will be a presentation tomorrow in the INSPIRE Toolbox session about this activity, and there will be a demo at the INSPIRE stand tomorrow and on Thursday in the lunch break. So if you're interested in validation, please come and have a look at these new tools. The second topic is about registers and registries. Why are we doing this? We have a central INSPIRE register already now for 2 years or so that basically stores code lists, vocabularies, the application schemas, the INSPIRE themes, and provides a central place to store and manage these kind of reference data that are used in metadata and data. Now, member states can extend the INSPIRE code lists, and in order to do that, they need to publish them in their own registers. So the member states said we need guidelines in order how we do these extensions of the central INSPIRE registry. How do we manage our registers? How do we set up our registers? And how do we are aware of, can become aware of other extensions that other member states may be doing? So we had this idea of creating a register federation in Europe so that we can basically find out who is providing registers in their countries. Also, from the registry development team at the JRC, we wanted to get some feedback from users to collect through a central group that basically provides further requirements for the development of the central registry. And last but not least, we needed also to set down procedures and decision-making rules for controlling the changes in management process in the central INSPIRE registers. The work of that group has basically more or less finished. We have just finalized a guidance and best practice document to describe how to set up registers and registries. We have given an overview of this register federation, and we also have basically created a kind of user guide for people on how to use the register federation for people that are managing registers in the member states, but also for people that want to use registers. For example, tool providers of transformation software can connect to the INSPIRE code list register in order to get the valid code list values for the transformation processes. We've also implemented a prototype for what we call the Register of Registers, or ROR, which is basically the central access point into the INSPIRE Register Federation. And we have updated the software that is underlying the INSPIRE registry service in order to support this register federation concepts. So just to give you a short overview of what this register look like, you can basically have a simple search interface to try and find all the registers available in the member states once the register federation has been set up. For example, all the code lists that are talking about buildings. We have some examples here. You can also just browse the relationships between registers. You can see there which register is extending some other register, so that you can find out if you're planning an extension, for example, if other countries have done a similar extension already that you can reuse or modify it for your own purposes. For the registry software, as I said, we have updated that to support the register federation concepts and rules. We're currently testing that software that should be released pretty soon. If you're interested in that, again, there is a presentation on the software tomorrow in the INSPIRE Toolbox session, and there will be demos of the registry software and the Register Federation at the INSPIRE stand tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. By the way, if you're interested, please come to the INSPIRE stand. We have a little leaflet, A5, that lists all the demos and presentations of the INSPIRE team during the conference. So you can pick that up and you don't have to scribble down all the dates and details now. Okay, moving on to the network services. We have two actions that are looking into technical guidelines and tools for observation and coverage data. So we've seen that many of the Annex 2 and 3 data sets are based on observation and coverages. So basically observations of water level, the water quality, of air quality, or coverages, auto images, or coverages of sea surface temperature, and the like. The currently available solutions in the technical guidelines are mainly for traditional vector data, so they're based on the WFS and ATOM standards, and they're not very suitable for providing direct access to these observation and coverage data. So you cannot really do queries, give me this observation at this point between 2016 and 2017, for example. In the same way, you cannot simply query subsets of coverages, and these are quite large data sets, which often are quite difficult to download because they're just huge quantities of data. So you really would want to do a query for a small area or for just only one of many dimensions of the coverage data. There are some standards for these data sets, so the Sensor Observation Service and the Web Coverage Service, and these provide you basically with additional opportunities of analysis and things that you can do with them. So that's basically the reasons why we wanted to provide additional guidance for these two types of data. The status is basically we have the technical guidelines for the SOS and WCS profiles completed, and they have basically completed the MIG-T review. We are now in the stage of working in the comments and then providing the final version that will then be submitted to the policy group, the MIG, for final adoption. We've also worked on an update of guidelines for the use of observations and measurements to provide additional observation types that we have in INSPIRE. Also, we wanted to give some better guidance, focus to INSPIRE and focus on the implementers. So there's a number of improvement of that document, also to make it consistent with the new technical guidelines on the SOS download service. And last but not least, we have also added some support to the additional INSPIRE observation types for point observations, for profile observations, trajectory observations, and so on, in the SOS open source implementation by 52 North. So this basically represents, let's say, our recognition that it's not enough to just provide technical guidelines, but what people really need are tools that they can use out of the box in order to fulfill their requirements. So that's why I think in the last year we've really put a lot of effort to not just write guidance, but also to, at the same time, try and test these guidance and implement tools that basically can be used to fulfill the guidance. And that's true for this work, but also for the work of the registry, which is why we've started implementing the tools directly as well. Okay, there's a number of presentations on these topics. Most of them, unfortunately, have already passed yesterday. So there was a workshop organized by Ilka, who was also in the room yesterday. But I think the sessions have been all recorded, so if you're interested, I think you can probably watch the recordings there. There was also a specific workshop on observation data and sensor observation services. And there will be a workshop on the INSPIRE coverages and WCS on Friday. And there's also a session on network services tomorrow, so there's plenty of additional information there if you're interested. Moving on to metadata. Again, we have worked on an update of the metadata technical guidelines. This is basically the oldest technical guidelines that we have in INSPIRE. I think it dates from 2008 or so. We have implementation experience on metadata since 2009, so basically 7 years of experience, and there's a number of things that people found were not really clear or not well done, let's say, in the original guidelines, and you have the full list here. So it was basically proposed to update the guidelines to address these issues. Again, we have completed the MIG-T review, and we're still working on finally completing the last version and working in all the comments that we received. Again, because we have so much experience on metadata, we received a lot of comments, so it takes a bit longer than expected to actually really complete the final version. We have put together all the requirements on metadata for data sets, for network services, and for spatial data services in one document, because that was also one of the problems that people had, that the requirements for these different resource types were distributed into many documents. So we're trying to put it all together into one document. Also, we restructured the guidelines following the structure of ISO 19139. So basically, if you're familiar with that ISO standard, you will hopefully have an easier time in following the requirements, because basically it's rather following that standard than the structure of the INSPIRE requirements. And we've also worked with the group on validation to make sure that the language of the requirements is improved based on the feedback that we received from that group. I couldn't list all the presentations on metadata because there's really many, as always. It's a popular topic at INSPIRE conferences. I just picked out one that seemed to me like an interesting and maybe provocative talk. I don't know if Martin's here, but I recommend you go to that one as well. Another important topic, as I said, is one that we carry over into the new work program as well, is the topic on theme-specific issues. Now, that is basically related to the implementation of the data specification largely, but also in relation to other things like network services and metadata as well. So we have many questions, many different approaches, best practices, and planned extensions for INSPIRE that are basically depending on a theme. It will be quite different. You will have quite different problems and issues and questions when you're implementing address data themes than when you're building something for atmospheric observations, and yet again different from species distribution, for example. So recognizing this, we also have received feedback on some of the technical guidelines, data specifications on specific themes. And there are still some degrees of freedom with the approach to the implementation in the implementing rules. And so we thought it would be useful to develop, in discussion with the community, a kind of an agreed, harmonized approach for the implementation. And last but not least, as we said, we also want to discuss links with other policies, with reporting obligations and so on. So we thought it would be really useful to create a platform where implementers from the different thematic areas can discuss their issues and ideas. So we have created this thematic cluster platform some 2 years ago, I think, that is the place to do this. It's an important source for identifying issues on the implementations, for simplification, for bug fixing in the technical guidelines, but also as a knowledge base for what is happening in the different thematic communities. So if you haven't gone there already, I can thoroughly recommend to have a look for your specific thematic community and see what's happening there. You can see some statistics here. We have more than 700 members, about 50 groups that are structured by the different themes, and they're structured in clusters. So we try to put some themes that we think are related together in 9 clusters. We have around 400 discussion topics, more than 1,000 responses, and then also dedicated pages. We also had a number of dedicated webinars organized by the facilitators of the cluster. So each of the cluster has a facilitator that basically helps with the discussion and basically promotes the use of the platform in events like this one, but also in thematic events, and some of them are in the room. Maybe you can show your hands. Anja. Yeah, there you go. So if you're interested in the different clusters, please go and talk to the facilitators so they can explain you more. We have two new ones since the last conference, Kati Schleid from Austria and Stefania Morone from Italy for the observations and environmental monitoring facilities cluster and the biodiversities and area management cluster. And we also have collected a number of issues that people have identified on the cluster platform in order to improve the technical guidelines and potential issues even with the implementing rules. So these have been discussed in a subgroup of the facilitators and with the MICT, and they've also been reviewed by the MICP. And we basically have a list of proposed changes that are now with us, with the Commission, in order to take further action on them. Some examples here. I don't think we have time to go into this in detail, so I'll just leave these links for you if you want to have a look later on the slides to see some good examples on activity in the groups. All the facilitators are also meeting their groups, their communities. I've listed all the different meetings of the different clusters here. They're meeting in the room K2 over the course of the week, so maybe have a look here on the list of meetings. I don't know if we also have a leaflet on that at the stand, but I think we do. If not, just come and talk to us and we can tell you when exactly your group will meet. There was also a workshop organized, for example, by the group, the cluster on statistics and human health that was taking place yesterday on how to merge statistics and geospatial information. Okay, I think I need to speed up a bit, but do my best. We have the INSPIRE monitoring dashboard activity as well that was completed at the end of last year. The idea was that we need to have more useful and more automatic monitoring information available that will make it easier for member states also to automatically calculate their monitoring indicators relying on the metadata. The group actually developed a dashboard that can be used to display these indicators and to calculate these indicators. Many of the graphs about the progress of implementation that you may have seen during the conference basically come from this dashboard, and we will hear more about that from Marc on how that's being used in France. So we'll not say too much about that. Stefan will have a full presentation, I guess, full of graphs from the dashboard later, so you'll see that in action as well. We also had two what we call ad hoc actions in the MIG-T that were not formally included into the work program, but we had the feeling in the technical subgroup that we needed to do something about them, so we basically just had a small ad hoc group and worked on these issues. One of them was on updated guidelines for spatial data services, mainly for the reasons that many people in the member states had the feeling that it was unclear what spatial data services really are, some examples for them, what's the relationship between spatial data services and network services, and also didn't help that many of the requirements on spatial data services are in different legal acts, for example, in the metadata implementing rules and in the data interoperability implementing rules as well. And last but not least, the current technical guidelines required some extensions of the standard ISO metadata, and that's where we had a strong link with the group working on metadata, the working group 8. So the status is basically we've updated the technical guidelines based on an ad hoc group in the MIG-T. The updated metadata guidelines have been incorporated in the new metadata guidelines, And the MIG-P and the MIG-T both have reviewed this document, and it's now again with the Commission for it to take it further. I couldn't find any presentations on spatial data services, at least with the spatial data services title in the program. I think that reflects a bit the fact that still a lot of people are not really sure what they really are. But I would suspect that actually there are quite some presentations about, let's say, value-added services that are not necessarily the typical OGC service, but other applications and services based on INSPIRE data. So maybe you can go and look through the program and see if you can find any. Okay, the last topic I want to talk about is data model extensions. Why are we doing this? We see that data sets in the member states are often much richer and more valuable and useful for specific applications than the data models for data interoperability in the implementing rules and guidelines. We don't really want to lose or force member states to lose this richness and the value when they have to transform their data to the data models in the INSPIRE rules. So that's why it's important to allow a mechanism for extensions. Now, extensions can be done in many different ways, and a lot of data providers don't even know where to start and how to do it. So basically, we thought we should be collecting and analyzing a number of patterns for extending INSPIRE data models in order to give some guidance to implementers who want to extend them for specific purposes. Now this activity was launched, basically was led by GeoNovum, who had a strong interest in that, because in the Netherlands there's a new environmental planning act that basically should be built on INSPIRE, but would require a number of such extensions. So they really had a strong interest on that. So they organized 2 workshops with experts from different INSPIRE projects and member states that have done extensions in the past in order to collect the current state and some examples of extensions, and basically to derive these patterns. And the study basically has produced an inventory of existing extensions. It has described a methodology and a summary of how to do model-driven architecture that INSPIRE is based on as well. And we have a catalog of a number of patterns that are described with a number of examples, as well as there is an end-to-end tutorial. And all of this is basically documented on the website of the project, INSPIRE Extensions at .wetransform.to. There was also a workshop on Monday, 2 sessions. Again, if you're interested, maybe you can watch the video if you didn't have the chance to go. And there will be a session on INSPIRE Extensions as well tomorrow. That's been it from me. Thanks a lot for your patience. I hope it wasn't too much in too short a time. If you want to find out more, have a look on the MIG section on the INSPIRE website. If you're interested to participate in the future, please register in the pool of experts and indicate what your areas of expertise or interest are. You can participate in the thematic clusters, as I said, and or even join one of the temporary subgroups that we're setting up to support the maintenance and implementation group. And if you're interested to hear more, also you can come to talk to us at the INSPIRE stand. We've got sweets, really nice. So if this wasn't a motivation enough, that's another one. Thank you very much. Questions?
I would like to suggest that given the richness of Michael's presentation, as well as the fact that there are many resources either in the form of workshops or in the form of the INSPIRE stand here or in the form of the online and offline communities, that, and also considering the time that is allocated to this workshop, that we perhaps will take the questions at the end of the session. There is also another reason that I would like to now move to the second point, which is the reusing MIG results in the member states. because I have realized that we have actually 4 maintenance and implementation group members who would like to talk about their national implementation experiences. That's Daniela from Germany, Marc from France, Marcus from Austria, and Carlo from Italy. So I suggest, unless you have prepared a collective show, which I don't think so, to, to perhaps give a first word to lady. So Daniela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Moment. Ich glaube, ich muss ganz rübergehen.
Ja. Ja.
Okay. So, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Daniela Hogrebe. I'm working at the coordination office for the National SDI in Germany. And to make it very quick, I assume that most of you know already our national validation tool, the GDID test suite. If not, please feel free to go to the website and try and find it out, how it works. It's an online web service tool and it's free accessible, so you can easily access and use it. And if you have any questions or any feedback for us, please feel free to contact us. So the GDID test suite is a national validation tool. It includes by now conformity tests for INSPIRE metadata, discovery service, view services, download services based on the technical guidance documents, but also tests for our national requirements we have in our national SDI, in particular on metadata and services. Basically, it's a German view on what is INSPIRE compliant and what is not. That is reflected by our tests, and this really can differ from views of other member states. As Michael already mentioned, there's a new development of an INSPIRE testing framework, so hopefully there will be at the end an European validation tool which is reusable by the member states, and it includes, or it will include commonly agreed ATS and ETS to test INSPIRE resources. So hopefully we then have a common view in Europe what is INSPIRE compliant and what is not. So how will we reuse those results, or what is our intention to reuse those results of the validation group and of the development of the INSPIRE testing framework? We will keep our test suite as our national testing framework because it includes not only INSPIRE tests, but more than this. And we still have a need to have a national testing framework. But we intend to replace our national INSPIRE tests with a commonly agreed test of the INSPIRE testing framework. So for us, our main interest is that the new INSPIRE testing framework provides specific interfaces that enable us to use those tests in our national testing framework. So that's it for now.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm very glad that actually I think tomorrow we will have the opportunity to see the demo version of the European Validator. it's anyway, for me as somebody who is only following the INSPIRE from the margins, the discussion about whether something is being INSPIRE conform has been always very unpredictable, because there has been always a lot of views among the stakeholders. So I'm glad that slowly but surely we are moving somewhere, and that will actually also require a continuation of development, of implementation of the EU tools, as well as then perhaps a more conceptual clarification between INSPIRE compliance and the INSPIRE conformity, between the legal compliance and technical conformity, to kind of when we will be faced with, of course, a continuation of the implementation of the infrastructure and much more national cases and the European cases coming into play. Now, I would then like to invite Carlo, because he's also going to talk about the validation, as far as I understand. So I think it will be a very good continuation of the experience of Germany. So, Carlo, please.
Just 1 minute, because I charged the wrong one. But I promised to be short. Anyway, formally, I'm represent ISPRA, my organization is not the municipality where is located the GRC, but it's the Environmental Agency and Geological Survey of Italy that is in charge to implementing technically the INSPIRE in Italy. So our roles is in one part is the manage implementing the INSPIRE at the national level, but we have also the role of a geological survey at the national level. So we have also to fill in specifically, yeah, sure, it's the same name. Just the replies. Oh, you. Okay. And anyway, so what we presenting regarding the reuse of activity of validation and conformity testing group is something that is more related to validate especially data, geological data and other data. Thank you. So very good, very shortly. Okay, Michael and also Daniela mentioned about the INSPIRE test framework. So in some cases, we have a framework where develop the ATS and the ETS. Most of the activity are done, and probably in the next March, we have some real final version, I think so. And but also we have a demo. So our idea is to reuse the ATS and the ETS to implementing something at the national level. In some cases, this framework is useful for user. Michael showed who are the target people for that, but we are representing the national one. So we try to involve some software development. Here I put a specific one, but it's not the only one, because we are interested to implementing in our platform the ATS regarding the data set, specifically for geology and network risk zone, but also the ATS regarding some network services, especially the view and download services, to validate these services and provide these services. So, and to have a new platform accessible from the people in a specific context. The specific context that we have planning for next 1 or 2 years, maybe, is the flood directive. So we are planning to implementing in a specific platform the validation service, the ATS for validate the services, and also the data set regarding the geology that is more related to landslide database, and then the derivative products that's called other map and probably is filling in the natural risk zone, and also the floods that is covered by the natural risk zone. So our idea is to have 2 pillars inside the platform: one to validate the data set for geology and natural risk zone, and then have the web service validation to validate especially the view and download services. more or less what we are starting to implementing with the EM Plus project partner, and planning to have this one in a specific platform, also with the hydrographic district in the north eastern part of Italy, one of the main important district, is to implementing in their platform the validation serving, especially regarding the ATS that regarding the natural risk zone. So this is something that we're starting to do this year, and probably we continue in the next one. I think that's all.
Carlo, I really suggest to take the questions at the end, because otherwise we may not be able to have contributions from all the speakers. Let me now move to member state good practice and experience on the monitoring dashboards, and I would like to invite Marc from France.
I have to click on the Windows computer, my God. It works.
This
No.
is PDF. This is PDF.
It's a PDF, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm working on a LibreOffice that is open source software and not on Microsoft, and so it's a nightmare.
Okay, ready.
Thank you. So my name is Marc Leobet for the French Point and Contact, and I'm Deputy French Representative in the MICT. So I don't see the, oh, it works. So in fact, the objective of the dashboard wasn't technical for what I have in my memories. 3 years ago, we decided in a huge meeting in Copenhagen to try to solve some issues which led to the MICT. And one issue for the European Environmental Agency was to get the monitoring report through XML. And the issues for the member states, for example, Netherlands and France, was to send something validated by the authorities, because we engage our countries when we send the monitoring to the European Commission, and we have to be sure that what the French authorities have signed are really what we have decided to send to the European Commission. And the good news is we got an agreement with the EA, GRC, Digital Environment, to make a huge job. And so we gain efficiency for EA, that is for the taxpayers. We gain efficiency in all countries too, that is the same taxpayers. And cheaper, faster, nicer. With 2 reports, the official annual report, we send through XML file for my country, and through CSW OGC Web Services for, if you want, day after day a report. At European level. So it looks like that. So I've chosen a place where France is the best, with Spain on some Nordic countries, United Kingdom, and so on. Of course, that is the number of metadata. So very beautiful job. Thank you, EA. Thank you, GRC. And thank you, Netherlands, for their investment, because Netherlands paid some of the developments. So we took it in France, and so now we have beta versions. We get the CSW from public authorities, that is in France, regional SDI, to be able to have through the back office of the National Geocatalog a daily update of the vision of the SDI implementation. And so what is, we have designed the front dashboard toward one target, that is policymakers, and people who pay for implementation of the SDI at regional level. So it is not very technical. We just want to have some pictures, you know. Is my region good enough? Is my department, a lower local government, good enough or not? The unexpected result was to fix some issues we have. You know, people in local governments move the CSW node, forget to warn us, and so we miss the harvesting. So now, if they miss the harvest because they've changed the URL, they are empty on the dashboard, and it could be useful. And for the people managing the regional SDI, it's very useful to, at a glance, the steering committee can see how they are in the French landscape. And so it looks like that. So you have a map for state services at regional and departmental level, and you have also maps for local government at regional and departmental level. Thank you.
Excellent, Marc. I'm really relieved to hear that the monitoring data from France are quality assured. I hope the same goes for the other member states. And I'm also, as the Facebook user, very relieved to see that we are now going towards the monitoring dashboards and nice maps that are, so to say, user-friendly. So with that, I would like to pass word to Marcus from Austria to introduce to us Austrian experience on the metadata. Please, Marcus.
Thank you. We'll keep it very short. So I'm coming from the NMCA in Austria, and I'm embedded in the National Coordination Body, and therefore I'm also a delegate in the MIC working group. And in December 2014, the member states were confronted with amendments in the metadata based on the Spatial Data Services amendments. And we received a time frame for about 12 months to embed these amendments in our metadata editors. Who has it running in the audience? No hands up? Okay. We observed that for the situation for the IT development, this is a very short time frame, of course. We have had no activities in the MIC at that moment. Okay. But the report is independent from the text you will see now. This one here. And we observed that what we don't want to do is to spend the whole effort again that we have spent for the first metadata editor. And this was the first survey that we have done. We have to spend the same effort again because INSPIRE has some specialities that are not embedded. So from this experience, we knew not anymore. And we changed the way of thinking for the IT development. And therefore, the idea was to select a tool that is widely used, that is free and open source, and to let the community add the functionalities. The result should be available to every one of us, not only for my agency, but everyone in Europe, everyone worldwide. And the functionality should be available in further versions of the software. These are the main requirements that we have had. So we commissioned one core developer company in Italy because we had good relations to them. There are few around, and the way it goes is that you put up your requirements. And these were one of the main challenges in here. You have seen the time frame that we will have reviewed technical guidance document by the end of this year. We have already a GeoNetwork version out that has these amendments embedded. So how could we do this? We have had some recursions, of course, the last year. So we took the technical guidance that was available. We went into the implementation, and after 2 months, we had to recurse again and do it again. And after 3 recursions, we come up with the status that we have now, and the community should have embedded the extensions, the amendments, into the GeoNetwork 305. I've put the ticket down here as link, so you can read the ticket of the community. There are some screenshots available, so it is working. Of course, it is buggy, and at the moment, we're working at the bug removal. And also for this procedure, we are not doing it alone. We are asking for the bug reports of all our stakeholders in Austria. People who did not work together beforehand now work together on one technical solution. And all the bugs are collected by me, and we are in discussion with the developers. And GeoSolutions, at the commissioned company, is coordinating and quality checking the code in the background. I've put it also to lectures at the university, and it does work, and user management does work, and the CSV does work, so it could be productive if we get out the last bugs. In extension to this, because this was so successful for GeoNetwork, we also extended the GeoServer for the INSPIRE requirements, and now you can put in the get capabilities, metadata directly to the WMTS dashboard in GeoServer. This should be included in the actual GeoServer version as well. Well, that's it. That's the way we go now. We just buy the functionality. We try to put it to the core code of the software solutions. And if the community thinks that this is helpful, they embed it. I hope they do. And I hope this is a way also for you to proceed for the IT development. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marc. As with many other INSPIRE tools, I think the proof of the pudding will be in eating it. So the community will either use it or we will lose it. But let's hope that will be the first case. And let me now introduce Chris, who is national expert from Austria. We haven't put him among the MIC group because he is associated in a different way to the INSPIRE exercise. And perhaps you can share with us shortly the experiences on the registry of registry implementation in Austria. Please.
Which one is it? This?
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you. My name is Schubert, and I want to show you a short use case what we did in Austria to implement the JRC solution and also the concept for the registry and the registry federation. Just a short view, but Michael explained more in detail what was the task and for this group. We started end of 2014, more than 20 members and 18 meetings we did in the last 2 years, and the results are in the end, we have a nice architecture and a structure of this registry federation, and also the mentioned technical guidelines how to implement, how to bring content in the RoR. I guess, you know, especially for the INSPIRE vocabulary, we have we have a characteristic type of extension for the INSPIRE code list, and we defined 2 use cases where we want to test it in Austria. The first use case, it's quite empty or quite easy. It's dealing with an empty code list, and the second use case is more difficult. It's a kind of extension, or it's an extension of specific values with more detailed information. Before we started to implement, we set up also in Austria a working group for the registry, and we discussed also the same procedure and what we did before when I was working at JRC, but who is responsible, which role has to be taken, and now the CCA data center suggests a registry manager, but the vocabulary manager, the control body, is a part of the UBA in Austria. So we implemented this JRC software for registry, published a code list also coming from UBA for land cover classes. This is one part. And then we try to set up, or we try to implement this code list into the RoR. And on the left side, you can see the JRC software, or the open software registry. We published it in the RoR. And the second use case, it was more an experiment. We use this a separate thesaurus. It's not really related. The content is related with INSPIRE, but the technical solution not. And we try to implement these thesaurus from the Geological Survey in Austria. Also, we try to integrate the content into the RoR, and with success. You can see the last lines here. So one is the INSPIRE registry, or the Austrian INSPIRE registry, and the other thing, the last line is the geological classification from the Geological Survey in Austria. In the end, the process was for me quite difficult, but in the end we got, thanks to JRC, Daniela, and Michael, we have with this RoR we have a nice software framework, and this also brings some essential to the link open data functionalities. We provide, or you can provide RDF. We're using existing content, existing vocabulary, and you can link it. And of course, the maintenance, we will, after implementation, we will identify some gaps for sure, and we discussed also some other functionalities. In the end, the benefits of our experiment or use cases or implementation in Austria were, on the one point, we can easily do, or we can easily make a vocabulary visible. It's quite easy to provide, and we are also able to do a kind of vocabulary management, and this is the most important step, that we can compare, that we can really make decisions what we should provide in the registry. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris. You captured my imagination, because I was thinking if we have the national registers and national vocabularies, and that at the level of INSPIRE we are going to have the register of registers than what we are going to have at the UNGGIM level, probably register of registers of registers. So, but hopefully this will end there. Anyway, I think you were the last of the presentations of very nice applications or user cases from the member states. So thanks to all 5 colleagues for sharing with us their individual applications. And I think that it was so far enough for an amusement, because we are going to cut some slack here as we are moving to an INSPIRE Monitoring 2016 report on the member states' progress in implementation of the INSPIRE. I was afraid that Stefan ran away, but now he is standing just next to me. So, Stefan, the floor is yours now. Be as brave as you can.
I hope to gain us some time, because I think we have seen the monitoring results already used by several people in presentations. Starting yesterday, during today, the plenaries we saw from the French presentation. So I'll make that very short, because we all want to go to the icebreaker, don't we? No, it's at 5. It's at 5. And, well, as an introduction, I mean, we are, EA is handling this data flow where the countries are sending in data based on the INSPIRE monitoring, which is using indicators in order to show progress on the various INSPIRE areas. I think many of you are familiar with that work, and I would just like to very briefly now, I would be brief to present the results. So overall, when we look at the reference year 2015, for that reference year, the countries should deliver the data 15th of May 2016. Some are late, but in general, this works quite well. But what we see here also is the difference in volume. We had discussed this in another context. High numbers doesn't necessarily mean better implementation, but we show rather factually what the numbers are. Please note that this is logarithmic, so I mean we are here at 600 odd, and that is 30,000. So we have actually 5 countries which are ranging rather high, and some others lower. And you can look at what this means, and you can study the specifics. Over the years, we see the following progress. I mean, we are doing quite well generally on availability of this from all the countries. Ireland, unfortunately, has been dropping out a bit the past 2 years. I'm not aware why, but we have to look at that. But else, I think it looks quite good. As we heard in other presentations, this data comes in through XML already, because countries have been setting up such services, or in other means. This is an example which shows, here this usually uses Portugal, and it shows some dynamic in how data sets are being growing and against various indicators. So the dashboard provides you with a set of entry points where you can do different elaborations. We see the actual number of data sets countries have been published. This is around 130,000. They stem from different annexes, so we can actually see that also this is Annex 3. Also there already is quite a lot of data available, of course not harmonized, but data as such is available, which is kind of tagged with the Annex 3. If you have the application, you hover on it, then you can see the details underneath these graphics. I run briefly through some indicators, and also this has been shown already by other people. So on the metadata, I think we are indicator number 1. We are doing quite well. This is looking at 13. All the other graphics which come now look at 13, 14, 15. So basically it's getting darker, which means, to simplify the message, means things are improving. And here you see the Irish example there, we lack the data. Conformity of metadata, I mean, we see some pattern here in the towards the east, where things are maybe not that advanced, but else we're doing quite well on that as well as a community. Same for dataset and services. The pictures actually are not so different. Accessibility of metadata then through discovery services, also an area where we're making progress. There have been drops and ups again, but the overall picture, I think, goes into the right direction. Here you see already immediately quite a different color pattern, which, if you look at the legend here, indicates that we are actually here not doing so well. So this is conformity of spatial data sets. And I wonder how Romania is doing so well and then not. But I mean, this is unvalidated data. I mean, that we have to say this is unvalidated data. So this is the data that is being provided by the countries, and we have to move ahead on that. Here we have a mixed picture, accessibility through view and download services. We have a mixed picture, so I would say middle level success. Similar thing here on the conformity and discovery and view services. You see a bit patchy around Europe, but I mean, in general, things are improving, I would say, but the absolute level is in the middle range. Conformity of download services, similar story. I mean, you can all do all these elaborations yourself. That is, I think, why we in the future maybe drop this presentation because it does not add too much value. If you look now at the number of records per seam, this is also something the dashboard provides you easily. You see how much data we actually, I cannot read this, how much data we have actually on land use, area management, pedestrian passes, so they are really high up, those topics from Annex 1 and 2. Of course, that reflects the implementation roadmap, but there is a kind of a bias in the whole thing, and I hope this has been growing in the future. Something on conformity. Summary here on metadata, what I already said. There's very good progress regarding all the elements, availability, conformity, and accessibility through services, availability of spatial data through different service types. We have been seeing that for some service types, a simpler one, I would say, that is okay. If the service types become more complex, then it's not so satisfying for the time being, I would say. Conformity of spatial data sets, our weak Achilles heel, or it's called. I mean, there are we at the lower end. The amount of resources is growing, and I showed with the last slides that we have these variations in the type of resources, and they are these imbalances across annex seams. Who is more interested in this can come to the demonstration at the INSPIRE booth, which we're doing on Thursday from 10:30 to 11, or we can make an arrangement, talk to the EEA people, or explore it yourself under this URL, and that is on this topic on behalf of the ECEA INSPIRE team. So thanks for all who have been timely delivering their contribution to the dashboard, and thanks to all for improving the situation.
Thank you, Stefan. Let me start here before giving word to Joeri with a little personal recollection, because it actually concerns a colleague who is here with us, Vlado Zettel. When I started to work on the INSPIRE file, I went to the INSPIRE training, where we looked into the Geo portal and the national spatial data portals, and was for me quite an eye-opener, because in one member state, whose name I won't mention, we have discovered that there is quite a huge number of the spatial data which are falling under the category of the roads. And these were the spatial data for the secondary and tertiary roads. Now, normally, one would wonder why you would need this type of data in the spatial data infrastructure and in the pan-European spatial data infrastructure. But for me, as a cyclist, it immediately made sense, because I was thinking, okay, that would actually help me when I next time cross the river of Morava on my bike and get lost in Czech Republic to find my way back home. However, this leads us to another quite important issue, because as Stefan has mentioned, we are for the moment distinguishing data according to the data themes. But of course, if we are really willing to get to the end user applications, then we need to have a much bigger much higher focus on actually the data content. So we don't treat them in a very general or very wide categories, but we need to treat them from the view of the final end user application that we want to get. And so far, for obvious reasons that I think are much more clear to you than to me actually, we haven't gone to that level. But I think at the moment there is a time also for a little bit of a forward-looking perspective. We have already been talking in the opening sessions about the simplification of requirements and simplification of use. And we have been also talking about the prioritization. Prioritization meaning prioritization of the content of data that we are looking for to actually be powered and be facilitated through the INSPIRE. And this, I believe, is also one of the leading motives of the upcoming multi-annual work program. So I would like to ask my colleague Joeri to give us a bit of a snapshot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. I was to present the outlook in INSPIRE, but it's going to be a very condensed outlook since we've got 3 or 4 minutes left, and then we would spend some time for questions because you probably will have questions after all these sessions. Okay. I think it's this one. Yeah. There it is. So I have the honor. So I'm Joeri Robbrecht. I work at DG Environment in unit E4, which is the Compliance and Better Regulation unit, and it's responsible for the management of the INSPIRE file. So proud that I can present the new maintenance and implementation work program, which will take INSPIRE into its home stretch, meaning it will cover the period of 2016 till 2020, beyond the deadlines, the last deadlines of the INSPIRE directive. I'm just trying to figure out how I can condense all the slides I have in 2 minutes. Now, thanks to Michael and Robert, they already demystified a lot of the INSPIRE acronyms because we're used to throwing a lot of acronyms at you, MIG, MIF, MIWP, and so on, so you know what the MIG is. So in general, the MIWP is a multi-annual rolling work program that actually regulates the work of the MIG, the Maintenance Implementation Expert Group of the Commission. Means rolling means it's a living document, so we add actions and remove actions as we see needed, as we see fit. So if the external influencer change like new policies, we try to adapt. That's the flexibility of the work in the MIG. And that's what the MIWP is. It's a way to regulate or to plan the work in the MIG. So we had a lot of presentations this morning as well. We had Joanna Drake talking about the challenges and the other policies and the importance of INSPIRE for different policies. We had Joachim Di Genio, who is our deputy head of unit, talk about the refit exercise we had. So we did have an evaluation of INSPIRE. First, a midterm evaluation based on Article 23 of the INSPIRE directive. Followed by a refit evaluation that the Commission wanted us to do. So that's the evaluation part of INSPIRE, looking back on the implementation progress of the Member States on the INSPIRE directive. At the same time, last year and this year, we started a lot of bilateral meetings to start talking with the Member States, discussing some implementation issues and looking together with them at the possible actions they could undertake to remediate these implementation gaps or issues. And so they all delivered, most of them delivered an action plan, which is forward-looking. So how will you address the existing issues? So that's already forward-looking. All this information then went into the Commission report to the Parliament and the Council, and it gave us some recommendations, which were all fed into this new Maintenance and Implementation Work Program. So that's the general cycle. A lot of policies that are relevant to INSPIRE. I heard Joanna Drake say this morning, well, INSPIRE contributes to job growth, yeah, green economy. It contributes to circular economy, yeah, waste is environment, recycling of waste is materials. That provides economic benefits, and so on and so on. So we've got a lot of policies where INSPIRE can play a very important role. Now, within the context of the MIWP, the new one, we actually decided to focus on 2 of them. That one is better regulation, and a very specific action on the better regulation is reducing regulatory burden. Now, within the context of environmental legislation, that means, in our context, You heard, I think Joachim talking 1 hour ago in the session on fitness check. Fitness check means we are actually reviewing the fitness of the reporting processes of all the environmental legislation, of the environmental acquis managed by DG Environment. So we're looking at how we report on the total environmental acquis, and we're going to make it a priority use case to also look at the reporting process under INSPIRE. What Marc was mentioning, using metadata for reporting and monitoring. We'll take this further. But at the same time, we also will introduce or propose INSPIRE as the main process for all environmental reporting. So we will put INSPIRE and the way we deliver data and make data accessible to INSPIRE as the main process for reporting under the environmental acquis into the future. So there's a lot of discussion going on with the EEA, how we can manage this and how we can provide a feasible transposition or transition period to make this happen. So now all these evaluation and outlook and so on delivered us a new playfield for our multi-annual work program based on refit conclusions, so the conclusions from the evaluation and the recommendations that went into the report to Parliament and Council. Now, I can go through them, but I'm not going to do this. This will take me another 5 minutes. So I think you heard most of them presented by Joachim in the plenary session just an hour ago. So it's the same. But that's the playfield for which we developed a new multi-annual work program. How does it look? Well, we've got 4 main working areas. And for those 4 main working areas, for the moment, we got 4 main actions defined. Now, the main working areas are fitness for purpose. That's the review of the existing implementation framework, meaning the implementing regulations and the technical guidelines. Which kind of review? Well, we go through all the acts, and then we also try to better define compliancy and conformity. Now, we had to I think Daniela presented the way Germany looks at INSPIRE compliancy, and then other member states have a different look on INSPIRE compliancy. Tomorrow we'll have a demo of an abstract test suite and an executable test suite. We will provide a common view on INSPIRE compliancy, and we from Commission side, DG Env, also have a very specific look on compliancy, meaning pure legal compliancy and no technical compliancy. So we have to find a balance there. We have to be clear towards the member states and to see when you are legally compliant to INSPIRE and when you need more conformity, technical conformity, to make the INSPIRE infrastructure and solutions work. So that's a discussion that will go on in that action. Then we got the end-user applications, very important. People are always asking for use cases, and who's using INSPIRE? Well, we got a lot of use cases, but it's time that the Commission itself put some effort in building end-user applications. Now, you see a lot of end-user applications listed there, but our main end-user application from now on will be, for the coming year, will be the e-reporting. So providing the common process for reporting on the environmental acquis, that's our main end-user application. Of course, continued support to implementation. We are very grateful that we can count on GRC and EEA to provide the support for the implementation of INSPIRE. They have been doing this very successfully for many, many years, and we hope they can continue to do it for many, many years. So, and it's building software tools, like you saw Michael presenting all the results, deliverables from the ongoing actions. So that's quite important for us, that it provides capacity and capabilities for the member states that GRC is providing. And a very important part, we'll continue doing that. That one. Then the alignment with EU policies, with a focus on 2 policies for the moment in the MIWP, meaning better regulation, providing effective and efficient reporting, and the digital single market. That's the 4 main areas. We have defined 4 core actions. We had a 5th one, but it hasn't been adopted by the MIC for the moment. So 4 core actions, and the 5th one was the list of priority data sets, with which we wanted to provide a data scope for the INSPIRE implementation, an evolving data scope, which would make INSPIRE implementation more feasible when you said you've got to implement and make available 15 data sets to start with this year and 15 next year, instead of all data at once. So that's list of priority data sets. Discussion is still going on. I saw the presentation from Spain. I think Emilio discussed it in the plenary session, just where he highlighted the 45 unique data sets identified as priority data sets for the moment. So they already started working on that one. That's the list of priority data sets, but it has not been adopted as a core action in the MIWP right now. So we hope it will come in, it will enter the MIWP by the end of this year. So we got 4 big actions, defined core actions, 2 running actions. Michael already discussed them. It's about the validation and conformity testing, which is going on. We just take that one from the previous MIWP, integrate it in the new one, and it will continue running together with the thematic clusters. So these two things are set, they will go on. We got two new actions. The first is the INSPIRE Fitness, Fitness for Purpose action, and the second one is streamlining the monitoring and reporting process. That's taking the dashboard a step further. I will very brief, because I think the ice-breaking part is going to start. I will very briefly go over the new actions that we have defined. So the Fitness for Purpose, it's about clarifying the implementation approach that we want to introduce and the legal compliance. Very important to try to set some priorities to make the implementation also of the interoperability regulations feasible for the member states. Introduce some flexibility and make sure that there is a right balance between interoperability and complexity. If you have a high level of interoperability, then it's a high level of technical complexity to implement. For some use cases, it might not be needed to have a high level of interoperability or high level of complexity. So you should be able, within the INSPIRE framework, to select the level of interoperability that suits your use case. For this, we want to introduce a concept that says you got 3 levels of implementation. It's a basic implementation level, an essential implementation level, and the premium. The premium being all legal obligations plus all good practices described in the technical guidances. This would be the premium INSPIRE implementation. Only legal requirements would be the basic implementation. Now, for e-reporting, for example, we need more than just the basic requirements of INSPIRE. We need the INSPIRE Essential. That would be some extended data models, for example, to be used under the Water Framework Directive, Industrial Emissions Directive, and so on. So that's the essential level that we try to introduce, and we'll try to proof drive this concept in the coming months. Simplification of use. People have problems with using INSPIRE, with problems with finding data, problems with using the service endpoint. So we have to find a way that we can simplify the use of INSPIRE for a broader set of end users. Now, this action will be discussed. So this is all concept and ideas for the moment. The discussion will go on in the MIC. So we have set up a subgroup in the MIC that will kick off this week on Friday. And they will discuss all these topics. So everything you see on this slide can change. It's open for discussion, and the subgroup will discuss it. And they will have a result, a first deliverable by the end of this year to be presented for the MIC in December. And that's a report with recommendations. Are we changing, implementing rules or not? Is there sufficient evidence to change anything? What are the real issues? What is the real conceived complexity of INSPIRE? Is there complexity or not? What are your use cases? Which level of support do you need? Which level of interoperability? Open for discussion, Marc. That's a good thing. That's open for discussion. Second one, very important one, agreed by everybody, just like the previous one, we should change the way we report. It has to be less cumbersome, more easy. We are providing very good metadata, as we saw on the reporting. So the quality of metadata is very high. So we have the metadata of providing us the information for monitoring and reporting. So in the future, we will set up a system of reporting just based on metadata. You don't have to report anymore on paper, on Excel file, and so on. You provide your metadata, and it's available in your discovery service. And when it's available, we can actually harvest your metadata and record the indicators based on that metadata. That goes for about 90% of the indicators we want to gather will be provided by metadata. There is a slight possibility that we might change the metadata guidance a little bit again, because we need some additional keywords to get all the information we have, because we would like to know for which kind of legal acts you are providing which kind of data. That is a direct link between reporting under a legal act for us. We don't know it for the moment. We can provide a lot of air quality data, but then we would like to know you're providing this data for the air quality directive. That's a direct link for our reporting processes. So we will review the reporting as it's being done right now. We have a focus on this. We would like to develop, do the analysis of possible issues and possible options and possibilities this year, and we would start to develop a new reporting process for INSPIRE by the end of next year to be ready by 2018 with a renewed reporting process, and by 2019 to be sure that you don't have to provide an implementation report anymore. So the net result of this will be that we probably will change the reporting decision in INSPIRE by saying you will provide metadata, and metadata will provide the monitoring information, and you won't have to provide an implementation report anymore because we're now working on country fishes. We have not presented them yet, but the country fishes have a static part based on the reporting information you provided, how the coordination of your SDI is set up. Now that doesn't change every day, not every year. It's kind of static. If it changes, let us know. Then we update the static part of this report. You don't have to do it every 3 years. Second part is the dynamic indicators based on the metadata you made available. You're not saying anymore, I've got 50,000 data sets, and we look at the GeoPortal and we see 5. That's reality for the moment. Now, we'll only look at the GeoPortal. If your metadata for your data and services is available, it's accounted for. That's the way it will work. It will be fully automated, less cumbersome, but, well, it's not. I know we will have a discussion on the validation cycle. You already had that one, but that's the most feasible and less cumbersome approach we can provide for you. So these country fishes will replace the implementation reports. I forgot the third part. As a forward-looking part, we had member states bilateral meetings, and they provided us with action plans. That's a first reference set of actions you will initiate to remediate the implementation gaps with INSPIRE. Now, in the future, based on the metadata, we will see how you score good and bad. It could be your metadata is great, services are bad, then you will get something like, well, you have to improve your services or your quality of services. And that's part of your forward-looking action. So then we expect member states to take action on the lagging indicators. So that's the forward-looking part of the country fish. So totally different way. This will be discussed as well in a subgroup that is led by GRC and EEA, and will kick off this 27th of October in ISPRA. And they will start developing the new concept for reporting and the country fishes. So that's about it. We do have a lot of reference material. If you want to look at the reports, if you want to look at the staff working document, if you want to look at the consolidated version of this MIWP like we presented it, it's all available online. These are the links to all the documents and should provide you with enough information to get acquainted with the direction and the new direction we want to head for with INSPIRE. That's it. So thank you very much. I'm really sorry I wasn't able to condense my presentation.
wasn't possible. Clearly, we are not so much behind the schedule. I think the cocktail is slowly starting, but I would still, given the fact that the noise from the outside is still bearable, I would like to give to the audience an opportunity, as we have had a number of very interesting presentations, to ask the questions if there is any interest. A lady over there. I would suggest you perhaps come here and talk to the microphone, please.
Just a short correction. There was mentioned that the cluster meeting for biodiversity is on Wednesday and it's on Thursday. So anybody who's there Wednesday will not find anybody. Thursday you will find Stefania. I did quick mails with her while the rest of the presentations were, and she requested me to clarify this.
Super. Thanks a lot. Thank you. So we are up to date. Any other questions, please? Well, so I hope that the long-term implementation of INSPIRE will beat the drinks. Marc.
Just to finish on a good song, if you have noticed in Joeri's presentation, there is 2 recommendations from the states on 4 for European Commission. I love that European Commission.
Oh, well, and I think I will stop here because this was a positive feedback which I wouldn't like to lose. Thanks a lot for your participation, and see you around at the cocktail. Have a nice evening.